What are role-playing dimensions? An important interview question. The shortest definition for this is a database dimension which plays multiple roles when it moves to the cube level dimension. So let's see with an example. The best example, and people ask for an example when they ask about this role-playing dimensions, and the best example that you can give is date dimension. Here, if you see, this date can be joined with the fact internet says the fact table with three different key columns. One is this date key can be joined with due date key, and the same date key will be joined with the ship date key, and the same date key can be joined with order date key. So when you add this dim date dimension to your cube, it plays three different roles, one for getting the data based on order date, one for getting the data based on due date, one for getting the data based on ship date. Let's create the dimension pretty quickly. I'm going to create a dim date dimension. Let me take a dim date table here, and let me add all the attributes, and let it be dim date. Click on finish, and now I'm creating an empty cube, and oops, sorry, I would like to create an empty cube here. Create it, and let me add the fact table first. So I've added the fact table. Now when I add the database dimension that is dim date to the cube to make it cube dimension, then it will play three different roles. Let me show you that quickly. I'm adding one dim date, and you can see it has created three dimensions, three cube level dimensions, one for due date, one for ship date, and one for order date. So one database dimension acting as multiple roles in the cube is called role-playing dimension. Here the date dimension is the role-playing dimension. Why it has taken three automatically? Because you have given all the relationships here. Based on these relationships, you create three different dimensions, three different roles for the date dimension. Now that is why I always say that the best you can design your data source view, the more it's going to help you when you design dimensions, cubes, and so on. Now let's assume the role-playing dimension will automatically created when you have relationships defined in your SSAS DSP. Now let me remove the relationships and let me do the same again. How you can do that when there is no relationships defined in your data source view, which is actually a bad design, but let me show you pretty quickly how we can do that, how we can create role-playing dimensions when the relationships are not specified in your data source view. Okay, the first thing, let me delete this stuff and let me try to add the dim date again. So I'm adding dim date. As there is no relationships defined in the data source view, you can see only one dim date added. Now how to define the role, how to create the role-playing dimensions. First thing what you have to do is you have to rename it, because you're gonna add the same dim date again and again. I'm creating this one for dim order date, and let me add the same dim date dimension again, and let me rename it to due date, and let me add one more time because I have three different relationships to this fact table. So I'm adding ship date. Now, once you have renamed all the, the date dimensions, and if you see the properties here, the root or the base dimension ID will be dim date. Here, if you see for the due date, it's same dim date, and if you see for the order date, it's the same dim date. So it is referencing to the same database level dimension. The next step that you have to do here is you have to go to the dimension usage and you have to give the relationships. This is for dim date dimension for order date, right? So I have to give the relationship between the fact table and the dimension table based on order date key, because I have created this role-playing dimension for order date. So this is set, and the next thing you have to do here is again go for regular relationship because it has direct relationships, and go for, this is for due date, so relate the fact table with the due date, and the third one is for ship date. Let me select the dim date key and here ship date. So that's it. This is how you can create the relationship role-playing dimensions when there is no relationships defined in your data source view. If the relationships are defined, then well and good, it will automatically do the job for you. Analysis service will take the headache and it will do the job for you. So this is about the role-playing dimensions. In short, the definition for this one is the database level dimension will act as multiple roles in the cube level. And people sometimes they twist the question. They'll ask you to explain an example, anything except the date. So this is the question I faced when I've given interview a couple of years back. So sometimes they will ask you to give an example, anything except date. So let me show you quickly. I have a fact table. The best example that, the second example that I prefer to give is the Cricket database. In Cricket database, there will be fact data where you have the runs scored by each player. Okay. So there will be ball by ball details will be captured in a fact table. So this is my fact table. And this is my player table where I'll have player ID and player name. And a couple of other information like player height, weight, blah, 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 and so on. Now, in my fact table, what I'll have is ball ID and over ID and bowler ID. Let's say this is bowler ID, the third one. And fourth one is run scored. And fifth one is batsman ID, that is striker ID, who is the striker at that time. And sixth column will be, let's say, non-striker ID, who was the non-striker when that particular guy was striking the ball. And you can have one more column called fielder ID, right? Somebody will field the ball for sure. So you'll have fielder ID. If you see this particular fact table, his bowler is nothing but a player. And this striker is nothing but a player. And this non-striker is nothing but a player. And also the fielder here is nothing but a player. So when you define this data, when you have this data warehouse, and if you add this fact table, and if you provide all these four relationships in your data source view, and if you add this player dimension to your cube like this here, then it will create four roles for that. One is fielder, one is bowler, one is striker, one is non-striker. So this is another example for role-playing dimensions, and hope you understood the concept. You can explain this date dimension as one example, the best example, and the second one is you can have this player and the run scored or the runs fact data as another example or safe side example that you can have with you. So this is our role-playing dimensions. Hope you understood the concept, and stay tuned for more videos on SSIS, SSAS, and SSAS interview questions. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.